Okay, so I went over the first 6 pages with corrections, made a video of that to post on Google Classroom the other day, and I think I posted it, I'll check, but it'll be on there. And so this will be the second part of the coloring book, so this is what we're studying for our test tomorrow. And I'm telling you which ones to mark in terms of study so I can cut some of it out. Some of it's nice to know, good stuff to know, but at the same time, I'm not going to put it on your test. So number 8 here under maintaining life, this is not going to be something that you have to study, but the answer is just to go through those quickly. All right, so internal and external environments, keeping those separate would be maintenance of boundaries. The second one is actually H, but I could see how that could be growth as well. And then 3 would be growth. 4 is going to be A, digestion. 5 is going to be B. 6 is going to be G. 7 is F. 8 is E. And 9 is D. All right. Everybody good with that? Good. And then number 9, again, you don't have to study this one either, but the answers, in case you're curious, going to be C, B, E, D, E, A. All right. Everybody good with that? Okay, now this one, number 10, I am going to say to study it, but there are a couple, numbers 3 and 6, they're talking about pathways. We didn't mention them at all, but so we did talk about homeostasis being the concept of a relatively stable internal environment, internal inside our body, okay? Now, homeostatic regulation is the process of keeping our internal environment stable. So when something happens to take it outside of normal limits, our body reacts by doing something. All right, there's 3 parts to it. There's a receptor, so 3 essential components of all homeostatic control mechanisms. So control mechanisms to maintain homeostasis are the control center, the receptor, and effector. The blank senses changes in the environment. That's the receptor, senses changes in the environment. Responds by sending information, input, into the central nervous system, into the spinal cord, into the brain. This is the control center. That pathway, if you are curious, going in is called afferent with an A, but you do not need to know that for the test. All right, the blank analyzes the input. So what the control center does is it receives the input, it determines an appropriate response. So 4 is going to be control center again. All right. And it activates the third part, which is the effector. The effector is what actually does something. Like if I send a message out to a muscle to move, the muscle is the effector. Okay? And 6, so we send this message out to the effector through the efferent pathway with an E. But again, you don't need to know that. Okay? So 3 and 6, you don't have to study those. All right, I like the definitions on 7, 8, and 9. Those are good. I'm definitely going to ask those. When the response causes the initial stimulus to decline, so like something pushes us outside of normal range, our body reacts to bring it back in. So it's opposing the change. Like our body's too hot, we try to make it cooler. This is called negative feedback. And number 8, when the response actually enhances the initial stimulus, so something takes us out of normal range, our body reacts by pushing us farther out of normal range, then this is called positive feedback. So I noticed that from the last quizzes, a lot of people thought negative was bad and positive is good. That's not correct. All right, negative is it's just about how does it react, how does the body react in relation to the stimulus. Does it go against the stimulus or does it enhance the stimulus? All right, the most common feedback mechanisms, much more common in the body, would be negative. Okay, usually it's something goes out of limits and our body brings us back in limits. Just a couple of examples of positive feedback that we talk about would be blood clotting and childbirth. All right, so that's all those. Good with that? All right, the language of anatomy. So let's study this. The abdominal, pelvic, and thoracic cavities are subdivisions of the ventral body cavity. That's the main body cavity in the front of our body. The cranial and spinal cavities are parts of the dorsal body cavity. Those are the two main ones. And then we can divide them up into parts. The blank body cavity is totally surrounded by bone and provides very good protection to the structures it contains. That would be dorsal, protecting the spinal cord and brain. All right. Number 12 will not be on there, but if you're interested, distal does not fit, antecubital does not fit. The other terms are all on the trunk of the body. Brachial doesn't fit because the other ones are all parts of the leg, and brachial is the arm. 4 is left upper quadrant. That's a quadrant, not a region of the trunk, of the abdominal area. And then number 5 is ventral cavity, doesn't fit. That's a major cavity down the front of the body, and these other ones are all in the head. Okay? All right, number 13, I'm just going to label them on here. But number 13, you should know this diagram. You don't need to know this diagram. Okay? So just the body cavities. I'm not interested really in the abdominal region so much. But this main cavity at the top, that we should have colored all of this. So all of this, I'll color blue. Okay, all of that is dorsal. Okay, the subdivisions, those cavities, we have cranial and spinal. All right, and then I'll color the ventral body cavity green. All right, so that's all ventral. And then the individual divisions, just 2 of them on this. So that means the chest cavity we call thoracic, is chest. And then this one combining both the abdominal cavities and the pelvic cavity is called abdomino pelvic. Just stick the 2 words together. Abdominal pelvic. I went over these ones before. We have umbilical in the middle. We have above the stomach, meaning epi, above, gastric is stomach, hypo below, hypo, gastric. So you don't have to study these ones over here, but we have right hypochondriac, right lumbar, right inguinal. I call it inguinal or iliac, or inguinal, same thing. All right. Oh, Oops. Wait, what did I do? Mixed up my lines. Okay, is that good? So just study the diagram on the left. I will not put the diagram on the right on there. All right. Number 14. I did mark this one to study. All right, and just going through it quick. C for armpit, that's axillary. The thigh region, thigh is where the femur is, so that's femoral, okay, because that's where the femur is. The buttocks, that would be H, gluteal. The neck region is cervical, that would be F. The belly button area is P, umbilical. The genital area is M. The anterior aspect of the elbow is B, antecubital. Posterior aspect of the head is K, occipital, back of the head. Area where the trunk meets the thigh is going to be I, inguinal. Number 10 is J, lumbar. Everybody good with that? Still have to do 11, but it's off the bottom. 11 is going to be E, pertaining to the cheek, E, buccal. So 11 is E. Cool? Question? Study that one, yep. All right, number 15. Using the key terms from exercise 14, we're going to correctly label all body areas indicated with leader lines on figure 1-8. So we're going to label all these. All right. Kind of like the last part we just did, really. We're just actually labeling them on a diagram. But before we get to that, it says, in addition, identify the sections labeled A and B in the figure. So we have 3 sections we can possibly have. We can have a frontal, which divides the body into front and back. We can have a sagittal, which divides the body into left and right. We have a transverse that can divide the body into top and bottom. So A is going to be sagittal, and B is going to be transverse. And I'll put in there a little note. Just know left and right is sagittal. This particular one, since it's right down the middle, you could be more specific and say mid-sagittal. Transverse, also known as a cross section, by the way. Okay. Good with that? So just to explain that a little more, so if I did a section on this diagram that went like down like this, that would be a sagittal. Okay? Anywhere like that. Here would be a sagittal. This being right down the middle makes it a mid-sagittal. All right, so labeling these different areas, we have, first of all, buccal. The arm is brachial. This is antecubital. Abdominal. Belly button is umbilical. Inguinal. Femoral. That's all on that diagram. The shoulder blade is called the scapula, so this is the scapular. Lower back and side is lumbar. Back of the knee is popliteal. And then the calf is down there. The calf area, that's down here. Calf muscle is called the gastrocnemius, but that region is just known as the calf. All right. Or did you put Searle for that? Okay. Just name the muscle. Okay. Good with that? So 16 will not be on your test. But all of these could have ventral or dorsal to them. So like 1, 2, 4, and 5 all refer to ventral, and then number 3, that refers to dorsal. And if I want to be more specific, it would go like this. Go to that. All right, so some of these terms to get used to a little bit here. Number 1 is A. In the anatomical position, the face and palms are on the anterior body surface. The buttocks and shoulder blades are on the letter G, posterior. 3 is J. So superior means above or toward the top. Okay, so the top of the head is the most superior part of the body. All right, number 4 is also J. So number 4, the ears are blank to the shoulders. The ears are above the shoulders. All right, so that would mean they are superior. The ears are blank to the nose. The ears are to the side of the nose. All right, so that 5 is going to be E, lateral. 6 is A. The heart is anterior to the spine, meaning towards the front, and blank to the lungs. So our terms, lateral is to the side, and medial, just like it sounds like, is toward the middle. So this one's going to be F because the heart is more toward the middle of the body than the lungs. All right. Lateral means to the side. All right, number 8 is H. The elbow is proximal. So if you remember me talking about proximal and distal, those two go together. Those are used for the limbs, and we think point of attachment. Distal means it's farther from the point of attachment to the trunk of the body, and proximal means it's closer, close proximity. Number 9 is B, distal. So if we're talking about a limb, like arms or legs, the elbow is blank to the fingers. The elbow is closer to the point of attachment, so it's proximal. But compared to the shoulder is right at the point of attachment, so then the elbow would be farther away, which makes it distal. In humans, the dorsal surface can also be called the posterior. However, in four-legged animals, the dorsal surface is J, superior, because it's towards the top, above. All right? So you want to study those, in case I forgot to tell you. Almost done. Yeah. What number did you say? Okay, and number 12, so going on to the next page. If an incision cuts a heart into right and left parts, the section is what? What does that mean? I. Sagittal, right? Left and right parts. 13, but if the heart is cut so that the anterior and posterior parts result, so we divide it into a front and back, what do we call that? That would be a frontal, right? Front and back. So that is C. They're told to cut an animal along two planes so that the paired kidneys are observable in both sections. So paired kidneys. So kidney here. They're different sizes. Your kidney? All right, so if I did a sagittal section, would they be in both sections? They would? They'd be in one or the other. So what I would need here is something like that, a transverse. What about a frontal? Would that work? So, oh, there's two. Okay. The two sections that meet this requirement are the 14 and 15. That's C or K. C or K. Doesn't matter which one you put. Okay. All right, 18. All right, so another body cavities question for 18. So make sure you can tell where you would find these cavities, or these organs, sorry. 1 through 5 are all going to be A. A. That means we can find them all in the abdominal pelvic. Where are we going to find the spinal cord? C in the spinal. Okay, what about the bladder? A. What about the trachea? Trachea is our windpipe, right? Where's that at? Wouldn't that be up in the chest, thoracic? What about the lungs? Same? pituitary gland, that's actually up in the brain. And rectum and ovaries are both going to fit into abdominal pelvic. Good. All right, so on x-rays, the most dense materials are going to show up brightest. This is not something I'm having you study, by the way. You don't need to know this for the test. But it should go 2, 3, 1, 4, according to my key. Hopefully that's right. So we're going from darkest to lightest. So the least dense material would be the air. So that would be the air in the lungs. That would be darkest. And then soft tissue would be next. And then bone would be third. So bone would show up, x-rays, right? And then the most dense would be gold. So that would be the brightest. So those are all the things for your test. I know it's a lot, but I have confidence in you guys. You're very smart, very intelligent kids.